The blizzard hit like a fist. Ethan Cole stood in the lobby of Pine Ridge Lodge, snow melting off his work jacket, phone pressed to his ear as his daughter's voicemail played for the third time. Outside, the mountain road had disappeared under 3 feet of snow. Inside, the desk clerk was shaking his head. "I'm sorry, sir, we're completely full." Behind him, a woman in a charcoal suit didn't even look up from her phone as she said, "Then he'll have to find somewhere else." Ethan turned. Their eyes met. She was cold, composed, untouchable. He was exhausted, desperate, and out of options. Neither of them knew that by morning, everything would change. If you want to see where this storm takes them, stay with me until the end. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you're hooked already, hit that like button. The Pine Ridge Lodge sat at the edge of the world, or at least it felt that way. Perched on the shoulder of a mountain 2 hours outside Asheville, it was the kind of place people came to disappear for a weekend. Wealthy couples looking for romance, corporate retreats seeking inspiration, families who could afford the fantasy of rustic luxury. Stone and timber construction that looked like it had grown out of the mountain itself. Floor-to-ceiling windows that promised views of valleys and peaks stretching into forever. A place where money whispered instead of shouted, where comfort was assumed rather than advertised. It wasn't the kind of place Ethan Cole belonged. But desperation doesn't care about belonging. Desperation doesn't check your bank account or ask if you fit the aesthetic. Desperation just is. He'd been on the road for 6 hours when the snow started. At first, it was just flurries dancing in his headlights. The kind of early winter snow that looked pretty but didn't stick. Nothing the truck couldn't handle. He'd driven through worse. Ice storms that turned highways into skating rinks, fog so thick you couldn't see the hood of your own car. This was North Carolina mountain country. If you couldn't drive in bad weather, you didn't drive. But somewhere around mile marker 43, the wind picked up. The flurries became a curtain, then a wall. Visibility dropped from 100 yards to 50 to 20 to nothing at all. The road became a guess, a prayer, a white void where the edges disappeared and you just had to trust that the pavement was still under your tires. And when his rear tire caught a patch of black ice and sent him fishtailing toward the guardrail when he felt that sick sideways slide and saw the drop on the other side, Ethan made the call. He wasn't going to make it home tonight. His hands were shaking when he straightened the wheel. His heart was hammering against his ribs. The truck shuddered as he brought it back under control, and for a moment he just sat there, foot on the brake, breathing hard. The snow came down so thick it looked like static. The wipers couldn't keep up. He could barely see 10 feet ahead. The GPS had offered exactly one option within 20 miles, Pine Ridge Lodge. He'd laughed when he saw the nightly rate, $340 for one night. He made that in 2 days at the shop, before taxes. Hell, that was half his mortgage payment. But his daughter was home alone, and his phone was down to 12% battery, and the snow wasn't stopping. The temperature was dropping. The roads were getting worse by the minute. So he turned off the main road and climbed. The access road was steep and winding, the kind of road that was probably beautiful in daylight, but felt like a threat in the dark. His tires slipped twice. Once he had to back up and take another run at a curve because the incline was too much. The truck groaned. The engine strained, but it got him there. The lodge appeared through the white like a mirage. Timber beams and golden light, smoke curling from stone chimneys, luxury cars buried under snow in the lot. Even half hidden by the storm, it looked expensive. The kind of expensive that made you feel poor just looking at it. Ethan parked his 2009 Silverado between a Range Rover and a Tesla, killed the engine, and sat for a moment in the silence. He was so damn tired. Not just physically, though that was part of it. His back ached from lying under cars all week. His hands were stiff and sore, still stained with grease no amount of scrubbing could fully remove. His shoulders hurt from the tension of driving through the storm. But it was more than that. It was the tiredness that came from carrying everything alone. From being mom and dad both. From waking up every morning and pushing through because there was no other option. And all he'd wanted for the last 6 hours was to get home to Mia. He pulled out his phone and tried calling again. It rang once, twice, 3 times, 4. Then her voice, bright and familiar. "Hey, it's Mia. I can't come to the phone right now, but leave a message, and I'll call you back." The beep sounded. "Hey, kiddo, it's Dad. Listen, the roads are bad up here, and I'm not going to make it home tonight, I'm stuck at some lodge until the storm clears. I need you to lock the doors, okay? Double check them, and don't answer for anyone. There's leftover pasta in the fridge, the chicken penne you like. Heat it up for exactly 2 minutes, not longer, or it gets weird. Do your homework, brush your teeth, and go to bed by 10. I mean it, Mia. 10. Not 10:30 while you're sneaking in one more chapter. I know your tricks. He paused. I'll call you in the morning as soon as I can. I love you. Be safe. He ended the call and stared at the screen. 12%. He'd have to find a charger inside. The cold hit him the second he stepped out of the truck. Not regular cold, mountain cold, the kind that found every gap in your clothes and burrowed in. Wind like knives, snow that stung when it hit your face. He grabbed his duffel from the passenger seat and jogged toward the entrance, head down against the wind, boots crunching through snow that was already 6 inches deep and getting deeper. Inside, the world changed. The lobby was all exposed wood and soft lighting, the kind of lighting that was designed to make you feel warm and safe. A fire crackled in a stone hearth the size of a small car, flames dancing behind an iron screen. Leather furniture arranged in intimate clusters. Art on the walls. Actual art, not prints. Paintings of mountain landscapes and abstracts that probably cost more than his truck. A couple sat near the fire with wine glasses, murmuring to each other like the storm outside didn't exist. A man in a suit typed on a laptop in the corner, his expression tight with focus and exhaustion. Everything smelled like cedar and coffee and money. Behind the front desk stood a young guy in a burgundy vest, maybe 22, with the kind of smile that looked practiced. The smile of someone who'd been trained in hospitality and took it seriously. Good evening, sir. Welcome to Pine Ridge Lodge. Checking in? Ethan walked up, tracking snow across the polished floor. He saw the kid's eyes flick down to the wet footprints, then back up to his face. Smile never wavering. I need a room, just for tonight. The kid's smile didn't waver, but something shifted in his eyes. A flicker of concern. Of course, sir. Let me see what we have available. His fingers moved across the keyboard, clicking through screens. The clicking seemed to go on forever. Then the clicking stopped. The smile faltered. I'm very sorry, sir. It looks like we're completely booked for the evening. Ethan blinked. You're serious? Unfortunately, yes. With the storm, a lot of travelers have been forced to stop for the night. We've had people coming in steadily for the last 3 hours, and we filled our last room about 20 minutes ago. You're telling me you don't have anything? Not even a closet with a cot? The kid looked genuinely pained. I wish I did, sir, but we're at full capacity. Every room, every bed. Is there anywhere else nearby? The closest option would be the Mountain View Inn about 15 miles south. But with the road conditions, I wouldn't recommend— Yeah, I know. 15 miles south meant an hour in this weather. Maybe more. Maybe impossible. And the roads were only getting worse. He glanced toward the window. Snow streaked sideways across the glass, illuminated by the exterior lights. It looked like the world was ending out there. What about your couch? That couch right there. I'll pay for a room. Just let me sleep on a couch somewhere. The kid looked genuinely distressed now. I wish I could, sir. I really do. But we're not allowed to have guests sleeping in the common areas. It's a liability issue, and also, honestly, it wouldn't be comfortable. We have other guests, and then what am I supposed to do? The kid opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Well, you're welcome to wait in the lobby until the storm passes. We have coffee and tea available, and you can sit by the fire. That's not going to work. Ethan's voice came out harder than he meant, loud enough that the couple by the fire glanced over. He took a breath, tried to pull it back. Look, I'm sorry. I know this isn't your fault, but I've been driving for 6 hours. I have a 12-year-old daughter at home alone. I just need a place to sleep. That's it. I'm not asking for room service or turn-down service or whatever the hell else you people offer. Just a bed. I understand, sir, I really do. But I don't have anything available. I'm sorry. Behind him, someone spoke. Then he'll have to find somewhere else. The voice was female, cool, matter-of-fact. The kind of voice that expected to be listened to. Ethan turned. A woman stood near the fireplace, mid-30s, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit her like it had been made specifically for her body. Probably had been. Dark hair pulled back in a style that was professional and severe. Sharp features, High cheekbones, straight nose, a jawline that could cut glass. The kind of face that didn't smile unless it was strategic. She hadn't looked up from her phone when she said it, like his problem was background noise, an interruption to whatever she was reading. "Excuse me?" Ethan said. Now she looked up. Her eyes were cold and clear, the color of January rain, gray-blue, almost silver in the firelight. They assessed him in about 2 seconds. His work jacket with the logo patch half torn off, his jeans with the grease stain on the knee, his boots tracking melting snow across their expensive floor. He could see her making calculations, drawing conclusions. The lodge is full. If they don't have a room, they don't have a room. Waiting in the lobby won't change that. I wasn't asking you. You were asking loud enough for everyone to hear. She slipped her phone into her pocket and crossed her arms. I'm sorry about your situation, truly, but making it the staff's problem won't solve it. Ethan stared at her. He was too tired for this, too cold, too worried, too done with a day that had started at 5 in the morning and hadn't let up since. You know what? You're right. I'll just head back out into the blizzard. Maybe I'll freeze to death halfway down the mountain, but at least I won't be inconveniencing anyone. Her expression didn't change. No sympathy, no concern, nothing. Dramatic. Yeah, well, it's been a long day. It's been a long day for everyone. Lady, I don't know who you are, but... The desk clerk cleared his throat. Sir, if you'd like, I can call the Mountain View Inn and see if they have availability. I can also check with some of the local bed and breakfasts, though with the storm, they might also be... Don't bother. Ethan turned back toward the door. His chest felt tight. His hands were shaking again, but not from the cold this time, from frustration, from helplessness, from the feeling of being stuck with no good options and a daughter waiting at home in a storm that didn't care about any of it. Wait. He stopped. The woman was watching him now, really watching him, her head tilted slightly to one side. Her gaze flicked to his work jacket, his duffel bag, the grease still visible under his nails. Then to his face. She was doing math. He could see it happening behind her eyes. Some kind of calculation he didn't understand. Then she sighed. It was the kind of sigh that said she was about to regret what came next. I have a suite, 2 rooms. You can take the second bed. Ethan frowned. What? You heard me. She walked toward the desk, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Each step precise, measured. Put him under my reservation. Victoria Hale, Suite 12. The desk clerk's eyes went wide. Miss Hale, are you sure? I wouldn't offer if I wasn't sure. Her tone left no room for argument. It was the voice of someone used to making decisions and having them followed. She glanced at Ethan. You're not a serial killer, are you? Not last time I checked. Good enough. She turned back to the clerk. Make it happen. The kid hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Ms. Hale, I'm not sure hotel policy allows... I'm not asking about hotel policy. I'm a guest with a 2-bedroom suite, and I'm inviting another guest to share it. Is there a policy against that? Well, no, but... Then it's settled. She looked at Ethan again. What's your name? Ethan Cole. Ethan Cole, she repeated, like she was filing it away. She looked at the clerk. Add him to the room. The kid started typing, though he still looked uncertain. Ethan just stood there, trying to process what had just happened. This woman, this stranger who'd told him to leave 2 minutes ago, was offering him a room? Why? He asked. Victoria looked at him. The cold assessment was still there, but something else had joined it, something harder to read. Because you're right, the roads are dangerous, and you have a daughter at home. I'm not a monster. Could have fooled me. A flicker of something crossed her face. Amusement, maybe, or annoyance. Hard to tell. The corner of her mouth might have twitched. Might have. You want the room or not? Yeah, I do, thank you. Don't thank me yet. I have rules. Break them, and you'll be sleeping in your truck. Fair enough. The clerk printed out a key card and slid it across the desk. Suite 12, 2nd floor. Elevators are down the hall to your left. Victoria took the card, then turned without waiting and walked toward the hallway. Ethan grabbed his duffel and followed, still half convinced this was some kind of setup, or a fever dream. Maybe he'd crashed the truck and this was all a hallucination while he froze to death in a ditch. They didn't speak in the elevator. Victoria stood with her arms crossed, staring at the brushed steel doors. Ethan stood on the other side, duffel at his feet, trying not to stare at her. The elevator music was some kind of jazz, soft and unobtrusive, the kind of music designed to fill silence without being noticed. The suite was at the end of a quiet corridor, thick carpet muffling their footsteps. Victoria unlocked the door and stepped inside, flipping on lights as she went. Ethan followed and stopped just past the threshold. It wasn't a room, it was an apartment. Living area with a sectional couch and another fireplace. Kitchenette with granite counters and stainless steel appliances. A dining table. A desk with a lamp. 2 separate bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows that would have had a hell of a view if the storm wasn't erasing the world outside. Everything was decorated in earth tones, browns and grays and whites, natural wood and stone. Expensive without being gaudy. The kind of place where everything had been chosen by someone with taste and a budget. "Your room is on the left," Victoria said, shrugging off her coat and draping it over a chair. "Bathroom's stocked. Towels are in the closet. Don't touch my things, and we'll get along fine." Ethan set his duffel down. "I appreciate this, really." "You already said that." "I mean it." She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "I know you do." She walked to the kitchenette and poured herself a glass of water from a bottle on the counter. Her movements were efficient, precise. Nothing wasted. "There's a charger on the desk if you need it. The Wi-Fi password is on the card by the phone. Mini fridge has water and some snacks. Help yourself." "Thanks." "Don't thank me. Just stay out of my way." She took a sip of water. "I have work to do tonight. I'll be out here. You stay in your room, I'll stay out here, and we'll both pretend the other person doesn't exist. In the morning, the storm will be gone, and you can go home to your daughter. Simple." "Sounds simple enough." "Good." She set the glass down and looked at him, really looked at him, like she was trying to figure something out. "Why were you so desperate to stay?" "I told you, my daughter." "No, I mean, why not just sleep in your truck? You could have kept the engine running, stayed warm." Ethan shook his head. "In this storm, I'd be dead by morning. Carbon monoxide poisoning, or the truck runs out of gas and I freeze. And even if I survived, I'd have no way to call Mia. My phone's almost dead. So you were genuinely stuck?" "Yeah." She nodded slowly. "Okay. Why does it matter?" "It doesn't. I just wanted to know." She picked up her coat. "I'm going to change. Make yourself comfortable, but not too comfortable." She disappeared into her bedroom and closed the door. Ethan stood there for a moment, alone in the living area, listening to the storm rattle the windows. Then he picked up his duffel and went to his room. It was smaller than the living area, but still bigger than his bedroom at home. White linens, minimalist furniture, the kind of place where everything had its place and nothing felt lived in. A king-size bed that looked like it had never been slept in. Nightstands with USB ports built in. A TV mounted on the wall. Windows that showed nothing but white. He sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out his phone. 11%. He plugged it into the charger on the nightstand and tried calling Mia again. This time she picked up on the second ring. "Dad?" Relief flooded through him so fast he almost felt dizzy. "Hey kiddo, you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. Where are you?" "Stuck at a lodge in the mountains. The storm's too bad to drive through, but I'm safe. I've got a room for the night." "Are you by yourself?" He hesitated. "Sort of. It's complicated, but I'm safe." "Okay?" She sounded uncertain. "Are you coming home tomorrow?" "First thing. Soon as the road's clear, I'm on my way. Promise." "Okay. How about you? Did you eat?" "I had the pasta. It was good." "Good. And you locked the doors?" "Dad, I'm 12, not 5. I know how to lock the doors." He smiled despite everything. "I know. Just checking. You doing okay? I know it's been a rough week." A pause. Long enough that he started to worry. Then, "I miss Mom." There it was. The thing that was always there, even when they didn't say it. Especially when they didn't say it. Sarah had been gone for 3 years. 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days if he was counting. And he was. And some days it still felt like yesterday. Some days he still woke up expecting to see her in the kitchen making coffee. Some days he forgot she was gone just for a second, and then remembered, and the grief hit him all over again. "I know, baby. I miss her too." "Do you think she's proud of me?" Ethan closed his eyes. His throat felt tight. "I think she's so proud of you, she can't stand it. You're smart, you're tough, and you're kind, just like her. I'm kind of like you too, though. Unfortunately, that got a small laugh. It was enough. Listen, I'll be home tomorrow as soon as the road's clear. Until then, you call me if you need anything, okay? I don't care what time it is. You wake me up at 3 in the morning if you need to. Okay. I love you, Mia. Love you too, Dad. He ended the call and sat there for a while, phone in his hand, staring at nothing. The storm rattled the windows. Somewhere in the suite, he could hear Victoria moving around. Footsteps, a door closing, water running. He wondered what her story was. What kind of person offers a stranger a room and then tells them to stay out of her way? After a while, he got up and went into the bathroom. It was all marble and chrome, spotlessly clean. Towels so white they looked like they'd never been used. Toiletries and little bottles lined up on the counter. He turned on the shower and waited for the water to heat up. The water was hot, almost too hot, and he stood under it until the ache in his shoulders started to fade, until the cold finally left his bones, until he stopped feeling like he was about to fall apart. He scrubbed the grease from under his nails, worked shampoo through his hair, and let the steam fill his lungs. When he finally stepped out and dried off, he felt almost human again. He pulled on a clean shirt and sweatpants from his duffel and walked back into the living area. Victoria was sitting on the couch, laptop open, paper spread across the coffee table. She'd changed into something more casual, dark jeans and a cream-colored sweater, but she still looked like she was working. Her hair was down now, falling past her shoulders. It made her look different. Younger, maybe. Less like a weapon. "There's food in the kitchen if you're hungry," she said without looking up. "Help yourself." "Thanks." He opened the fridge. There wasn't much. Some cheese, crackers, a container of fruit, a few bottles of water. He grabbed an apple and leaned against the counter, watching her work. "You always work this late?" "Usually later." "What do you do?" "Corporate strategy." She typed something, frowned at the screen, typed something else. Her fingers moved fast, confident. "I run a consulting firm. We help companies restructure, optimize operations, improve efficiency, that kind of thing." Sounds intense. "It is." He took a bite of the apple. "You do this alone? The traveling, I mean?" "I have a team. But yes, I travel alone. It's easier that way." "Easier how?" She stopped typing, looked up at him. "Fewer distractions. Fewer variables. I can focus on the work without worrying about anyone else's schedule or needs." She closed the laptop. "What about you? What do you do when you're not stranded in blizzards?" "I'm a mechanic. Got a shop in Brevard." "You own it?" "Yeah, me and the bank." He smiled. "It's not much, but it's mine." Victoria studied him, her expression unreadable. "How long have you been doing that?" 10 years. Took over the place from the guy who trained me. He was retiring, needed someone to buy him out, and I needed a future that wasn't working for someone else. Something stable. Something I could pass on to Mia someday. Maybe, if she wanted it. He paused. My wife thought I was crazy. 32 years old, taking out a loan for a garage that barely broke even. Was she right? About me being crazy? Probably. About the garage? No. It worked out. Took a few years, but it worked out. We're doing okay now. Not rich, but steady. You said was. Ethan looked at her. What? You said your wife thought you were crazy. Past tense. He set the apple down on the counter. The room felt smaller suddenly. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. Ovarian. By the time they caught it, it had already spread. She fought for 2 years, but he shrugged, a gesture that was supposed to look casual, but didn't. She didn't make it. Victoria's expression softened, just slightly. The cold mask slipped for a second. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. He picked up the apple again, more to have something to do with his hands than because he wanted it. She was 34. Mia was 9. That's too young to lose your mom. That's too young for anyone to die. Yeah. Silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable exactly, but weighted, heavy with things neither of them wanted to say. Outside, the wind howled, the fire crackled, snow pelted the windows like thrown rice. What about you? Ethan asked after a while. You married? No. Ever been? No. Why not? She raised an eyebrow. That's a personal question. You just asked about my dead wife. Fair point. She picked up a wine glass from the coffee table. He hadn't noticed her pour it, and took a sip. Red wine, dark as blood in the firelight. I've never had the time. Or the interest, really. My work requires focus, complete focus. Relationships require compromise, attention, emotional availability. I'm not good at compromise. That's honest. It's practical. She set the glass down. I built my firm from nothing. I was 26 when I started it. Now I have 40 employees, offices in 3 cities, clients all over the country. That doesn't happen if you're splitting your attention between a career and a relationship. Sounds lonely. Sounds focused. Those aren't mutually exclusive. She looked at him, and for a moment something flickered in her eyes. Something that might have been acknowledgement. Or pain. Then it was gone. Maybe not. But it's the choice I made. He grabbed another apple from the fridge and sat in the chair across from her. So what's a corporate strategy consultant doing stuck in a mountain lodge in the middle of a blizzard? Client meeting in Asheville. Tech startup that's growing too fast and doesn't know how to scale. We were supposed to wrap at 4, but it ran late. Lots of pushback from the founder. He wanted to argue about every recommendation, wanted to know why we couldn't just keep doing things the way they'd always done them. She shook her head. I was supposed to drive back to Charlotte tonight, but the storm hit earlier than predicted. Bad planning. Bad luck. She gestured toward the window. I checked the weather before I left this morning. It wasn't supposed to hit until after midnight. But here we are. Here we are. He took another bite. What about you? Why were you on the road? Same thing, basically. I was working on a fleet contract 2 counties over. Small delivery company, 18 trucks. They needed someone who could do the work fast and cheap. I figured I could knock it out and still get home in time to make dinner for Mia. He laughed, but there wasn't much humor in it. Lost track of time. Engine number 12 had a transmission problem I didn't catch until I was already 3 hours in. By the time I finished, it was almost 6. I figured I could beat the storm home. And you couldn't. Nope. They sat there in the quiet. It was strange, Ethan thought, how quickly you could go from strangers to something else. Not friends exactly, but not strangers anymore either. Something in between. 2 people who'd been thrown together by circumstance and were making the best of it. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Sure. Well, why did you stay calm earlier when I told you to leave? He frowned. Stay calm? I wasn't calm. I was pissed. But you didn't yell, you didn't argue, you just turned around and walked away. Because yelling wouldn't have changed anything. You were right. The lodge was full. Getting mad at you or the desk kid wasn't going to make a room appear. Most people would have argued anyway. Yeah, well, I'm not most people. He shrugged. I've been on the other side of that kind of thing. People yelling at me when something breaks on their car, like it's my fault their transmission gave out. It doesn't help. It just makes everyone feel worse. Victoria nodded slowly, like he'd confirmed something she'd suspected. And then I offered you the room, and you didn't question it. You just said yes. Was I supposed to question it? Most people would have. Most men would have anyway. They would have wondered what I wanted, what the catch was. Is there a catch? No. Then I guess I'm not most men either. He met her eyes. You helped me when you didn't have to. I'm not going to overthink it. She studied him for a long moment. Then she picked up her wine glass and took another sip. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone angrier, maybe? Someone more bitter. About what? Life. She leaned back against the couch, one leg tucked under her. You've been through a lot. You lost your wife. You're raising a daughter alone. You work a blue-collar job that probably doesn't pay enough. You could have every reason to be hard, to be angry at the world. I was hard for a while, Ethan admitted. After Sarah died, I was angry at everything. At her for leaving, even though I knew it wasn't her fault. At myself for not being able to fix it, for not being able to save her. At the doctors for not catching it sooner. At the world for being so damn unfair. I wasn't a good person to be around. What changed? Mia. He said it simply, like it was obvious. She needed me. She'd just lost her mom. She was 9 years old, and her whole world had fallen apart. And I realized that I could either stay angry and make things worse, or I could be what she needed, so I chose the second thing. So you just stopped being angry? No, I just stopped letting it run my life. I'm still angry sometimes. I'm angry that Sarah didn't get to see Mia grow up. I'm angry that Mia has to do this without a mom. I'm angry that the world is unfair and people die and there's nothing we can do about it. But being angry doesn't bring Sarah back. It doesn't help Mia. So what's the point? He paused. Anger's easy. Being decent takes work. Victoria looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression. The mask cracked a little more. You're a good father. I'm trying to be. That's more than most people do. It's the bare minimum. No, the bare minimum is feeding and clothing your kid and making sure they don't die. What you're describing is actually caring. That's not the same thing. Ethan didn't know what to say to that, so he didn't say anything. The wind rattled the windows again. The lights flickered but held. Somewhere in the building, something creaked. The storm wasn't letting up. I should let you get back to work, Ethan said, standing. I'm done for tonight. Victoria closed her laptop. If I look at another spreadsheet, I'm going to lose my mind. Fair enough. He hesitated. Thanks again for this. I know you didn't have to. I know it probably complicates your night. You already thanked me. I know, but I mean it. She looked up at him, and for a second, something passed between them. An understanding, maybe, or recognition, like they'd both been pretending to be something they weren't, and now the masks were slipping. Like they'd both been carrying things alone for so long that they'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen. Get some sleep, she said quietly. The storm should pass by morning. You too. He went back to his room and lay down on the bed, still in his clothes, staring at the ceiling. The mattress was soft, too soft almost. He was used to his old bed at home, the one that sagged in the middle. This felt like sleeping on a cloud. His phone buzzed. A text from Mia. Good night, Dad. Stay safe. Love you. He smiled and typed back. Good night, kiddo. Love you too. See you tomorrow. Then he closed his eyes and listened to the storm. The wind, the snow, the creaking of the building. It should have kept him awake, but he was so tired, and the bed was so comfortable, and for the first time in hours, he felt safe. He was asleep in minutes. In the living room, Victoria sat in the dark, wine glass in hand, staring at the fire. The logs had burned down to embers, glowing orange in the darkness. She should go to bed. It was late, and she had an early morning, but she couldn't seem to move. She thought about what Ethan had said. Anger's easy. Being decent takes work. She wondered when she'd stop trying. She wondered if it was too late to start again. She finished her wine, set the glass down, and finally went to her room. But she didn't sleep. She lay in the dark, listening to the storm, thinking about choices, about the person she'd become, about whether that person was someone she actually wanted to be. She didn't have an answer, but for the first time in years she was asking the question. Ethan woke to silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from quiet, the kind that comes from absence. The wind had stopped. The snow had stopped. Even the building had stopped creaking. He lay there for a moment, disoriented, trying to remember where he was. Then it came back. The storm, the lodge, Victoria. He checked his phone. 6:43. The battery was at 87%. No missed calls from Mia, which meant she was either still asleep or everything was fine. Probably both. He got up and looked out the window. The world had been erased. Everything was white, the trees, the cars, the ground. Snow piled 3 feet high against the building. The sky was that pale gray that comes after a storm. Not quite dawn, not quite night. Beautiful and brutal at the same time. He pulled on his jeans and walked out into the living area. Victoria was already up, standing by the window with a cup of coffee, still in sweatpants and an oversized sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup. She looked different in the morning light. Younger, less armored. You're up early, he said. She didn't turn around. I don't sleep much. How long have you been awake? Since 5. He walked to the kitchenette and found the coffee maker. There was a pot already made. He poured himself a cup and joined her by the window. They stood there in silence, watching the sun start to break through the clouds. Roads won't be clear for hours, Victoria said finally. Maybe not until this afternoon. Yeah. You'll miss breakfast with your daughter. She'll understand. He took a sip. The coffee was strong, bitter, good. She's used to me being late. That doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't. They stood there a while longer. Then Victoria turned to him. I'm going to work out. There's a gym on the first floor. You're welcome to join me if you want. I'm good. Think I'll just call Mia, make sure she's okay. Suit yourself? She disappeared into her room and came out 5 minutes later in workout clothes. Black leggings, a gray tank top, her hair still in a ponytail. She looked like someone who took fitness seriously. Not gym selfie serious, but the kind of serious that came from discipline. I'll be back in an hour, she said. Take your time. After she left, Ethan called Mia. She answered on the first ring. Dad? Hey, kiddo. You up? Just woke up. Are you still stuck? Yeah, the storm's over, but the roads are still bad. I'll probably be here until this afternoon. Okay. She sounded disappointed, but trying to hide it. Are you safe? I'm safe. How about you? Did you sleep okay? Yeah, the house made some weird noises during the storm, but I checked and everything was locked. Pride swelled in his chest. That's my girl. Smart and brave. Dad, stop. I mean it. Your mom would be proud. A pause. Then quietly. Thanks. Listen, I'm going to head home as soon as I can. Until then, you need anything, you call me. Promise? I promise. Love you. Love you too. He ended the call and sat there for a while, staring at nothing. The suite felt too big, too quiet. He wasn't used to quiet. At home, there was always noise. Mia playing music, the TV, the neighbor's dog barking. Here, there was just the hum of the heating system and his own thoughts. He took a shower, got dressed, and was making another pot of coffee when Victoria came back. She was sweating, breathing hard, her face flushed from exertion. Good workout? He asked. Adequate. She grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge and drank half of it in one go. The gym's not bad. Limited equipment, but functional. You do this every day? 6 days a week. I take Sundays off. That's dedication. That's discipline. She wiped her face with a towel. If I don't work out, I can't think straight. My mind gets foggy. I get that. I used to run. Haven't in a while, though. Why not? Time. Energy. Excuses, mostly. He poured her a cup of coffee and handed it to her. After Sarah died, everything became about survival. Getting Mia to school, keeping the shop running, making sure we had food in the fridge. Running felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Victoria took the coffee. And now? Now it's been 3 years, and I've forgotten how to do things for myself. I've forgotten what that even feels like. She studied him over the rim of her cup. That sounds exhausting. It is. So why don't you change it? Because I don't know how. He said it honestly, without self-pity. Just fact. This is my life now. I'm not complaining. I chose it. But I don't know how to be anything other than what I am. Victoria didn't respond right away. She just looked at him, and for a moment he thought he saw something in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or understanding. Then she turned away. I'm going to shower. There's breakfast in the dining room downstairs if you're hungry. It's included with the room. Thanks. After she left, Ethan sat on the couch and stared at the cold fireplace. He felt restless, anxious, like he was supposed to be doing something but didn't know what. He checked his phone. 7:30. He pulled up the weather app. Roads still closed. Crews working to clear them, but it would take time. He was stuck here. With her. A stranger who was becoming less strange by the hour. Victoria came out 20 minutes later, hair damp, dressed in dark jeans and a white blouse. She looked like herself again, polished, controlled, untouchable. I'm going down to get breakfast, she said. You coming? Yeah, give me a minute. They rode the elevator in silence. The dining room was busy. Guests in expensive casual wear eating from a buffet that looked more like a restaurant than a hotel breakfast. Eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, pastries, made-to-order omelets. Ethan grabbed a plate and loaded it up. Victoria took fruit and yogurt and black coffee. They found a table by the window. Outside, the staff was working to clear pathways through the snow. Guests were taking pictures. Kids were building snowmen. It looked like a postcard. This place is surreal, Ethan said. It's a bubble. Victoria cut into a strawberry. People come here to pretend the real world doesn't exist. Is that why you're here? I'm here for work. Right. But you could have driven back to Charlotte last night if you'd left earlier. She looked at him. What are you implying? Nothing. Just wondering if maybe you wanted to stay. I don't do things because I want to. I do things because they're necessary. That sounds like a sad way to live. That sounds like survival. They ate in silence for a while. Then Victoria set down her fork. Can I ask you something? Sure. Last night you said you were angry after your wife died. What did that look like? Ethan took a breath. I drank too much, yelled at Mia over stupid things, stopped showing up for parent-teacher conferences. Let the shop fall apart. There was a month where I didn't change the sheets on my bed. I just checked out. What brought you back? Mia's teacher called me, said Mia had been crying in class, saying she missed her mom and her dad wasn't home anymore. And I realized that I'd been so focused on my own pain that I'd abandoned her. She'd lost her mom, and instead of helping her through it, I was making it worse. He paused. So I quit drinking, started going to therapy, fixed the shop, learned how to be present again. It took time, but I figured it out. Do you still go to therapy? Once a month, just to check in, make sure I'm not slipping. Victoria nodded slowly. It takes strength to admit you need help. It takes more strength to pretend you don't. She looked at him, and for a second her mask slipped. He saw something raw underneath, something that looked like pain. What about you? He asked. You ever need help? I don't do therapy. Why not? Because talking about problems doesn't solve them. Action does. Sometimes action is talking about problems. She picked up her coffee. I don't have problems. I have challenges, and I solve them. That sounds exhausting. You already said that, because it's true. They finished breakfast and went back upstairs. The suite felt smaller now, the silence more obvious. Victoria set up her laptop at the dining table and started working. Ethan sat on the couch with his phone, checking the weather every 10 minutes. An hour passed. Then 2. The silence stretched. Finally, Victoria closed her laptop and rubbed her eyes. I can't focus. Want to take a break? I don't take breaks. Maybe you should. She looked at him, annoyed. What do you want me to do? Watch TV? Play cards? We could talk. About what? I don't know. Anything. We're stuck here together. Might as well make use of the time. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. Fine. What do you want to talk about? Tell me about your company. What do you actually do? Victoria leaned back in her chair. We consult with companies that are struggling, declining profits, inefficient operations, poor management structures. We come in, analyze everything, and tell them how to fix it. And they listen? If they're smart, they do. If they're not, they ignore us and fail. That sounds harsh. That's business. Sentiment doesn't pay the bills. What happens to the people when you restructure? The employees? Some get let go. Some get reassigned. Some thrive in the new structure. And the ones who get let go? Find new jobs. Or don't. That's not my responsibility. Ethan frowned. Doesn't that bother you? Why would it? I'm hired to save the company, not to protect every individual employee. Because those are people, with families, bills, lives. I'm aware. Her tone was flat. But if I don't restructure, the company fails, and everyone loses their jobs. At least my way, some people keep theirs. That's some cold math. That's reality. They looked at each other. The tension in the room had shifted, not hostile exactly, but charged. You really believe that? Ethan asked. That it's just math? I have to. She said it quietly. Because if I start thinking about the people, I can't do my job. And if I can't do my job, I lose everything I've built. And what have you built exactly? She stood up. You wouldn't understand. Try me. I built a company from nothing. I was 26, fresh out of business school, no connections, no money, no safety net. Everyone told me I'd fail. They said I was too young, too female, too aggressive. But I didn't fail. I worked 80-hour weeks. I slept in my office. I learned how to negotiate, how to manipulate, how to win. And now I have a multi-million-dollar firm with clients across the country. I did that. Me. Alone. And what did it cost you? She froze. What? You heard me. What did it cost you? Nothing I wasn't willing to pay. That's not an answer. Victoria's jaw tightened. You don't get to judge me. You don't know what I've been through. You're right, I don't. But I know what I see. And I see someone who's scared. Scared of what? Of being human. Her face went pale. For a moment she just stood there, staring at him. Then she grabbed her coat. I'm going for a walk. Victoria, don't. She yanked open the door. Just don't. She left. The door slammed behind her. Ethan sat there, alone in the suite, wondering if he'd just made a terrible mistake. He gave her 30 minutes, then an hour. Then he started to worry. He texted her. You okay? No response. He waited another 20 minutes, then put on his coat and went looking for her. He found her in the lodge's library, a small room on the first floor lined with books. She was sitting in a leather chair by the window, staring out at the snow. Her coat was still on. Her face was blank. Can I sit? He asked. She didn't look at him. Free country. He sat in the chair across from her. They didn't speak for a while. Then Victoria said, You were right. About what? About me being scared. She turned to look at him. Her eyes were red. I'm terrified. All the time. That I'm not good enough. That I'll lose everything. That people will see through me and realize I'm a fraud. You're not a fraud. You don't know that. I know you built something. That takes real skill. It takes ruthlessness. It takes cutting people out of your life. It takes making decisions that hurt people and learning not to care. Her voice cracked. It takes becoming someone I don't recognize anymore. Ethan leaned forward. Then change. It's not that simple. Why not? Because if I change, everything falls apart. My reputation, my company, everything. Maybe it needs to fall apart. She laughed bitterly. Easy for you to say. You're not the one who'd lose everything. No, but I lost everything once, and I'm still here. Victoria looked at him. Really looked at him. How did you do it? How did you survive losing her? I didn't have a choice. Mia needed me, so I kept going. What if you didn't have Mia? What if you were alone? I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have made it. That's what I'm afraid of. She wiped her eyes. I don't have a Mia. I don't have anyone. If I stop being this person, if I stop being strong, I'll just disappear. You won't disappear. You'll just be different. What if different isn't enough? What if it's better? She didn't answer, just looked out the window at the snow. They sat there for a long time. Then Ethan said, Tell me something true. What? Something you've never told anyone. Something real. Victoria shook her head. I can't. Why not? Because if I say it out loud, it becomes real, and I'm not ready for it to be real. Maybe that's exactly why you need to say it. She looked at him. Her hands were shaking. You don't understand what you're asking. Then help me understand. Victoria took a breath, then another. Her whole body was tense, coiled like a spring. 5 years ago, I made a decision that got people killed. The words hung in the air. Ethan didn't move, didn't speak, just waited. I was consulting for a manufacturing company, Victoria continued. Her voice was barely above a whisper. They were losing money. Safety regulations were expensive. Equipment upgrades were expensive. I told them to cut costs, defer the upgrades, push the equipment longer. I ran the numbers and mathematically, it made sense. The risk was low, acceptable. She stopped. Her hands were clenched in her lap. What happened? Ethan asked gently. 6 months later, a machine failed. A hydraulic press. It was supposed to have been replaced, but I'd told them to wait. A worker named Marcus Chen was operating it. He had 2 kids. The machine malfunctioned and she closed her eyes. He died instantly. And his supervisor, a woman named Andrea Lopez, tried to help him. The machine caught her too. She was in the hospital for 3 months. Lost her arm. Ethan felt his stomach drop. Jesus. I told myself it wasn't my fault. The company made the final decision. I just gave them options. But I knew. I knew that equipment was old. I knew it was dangerous. And I chose profit over safety because that's what I was hired to do. Tears were streaming down her face now. I killed him. I didn't push the button, but I might as well have. And Andrea, she'll never work again. She has kids too, and they have to watch their mother struggle because I decided her safety was too expensive. Did anyone else know? Did the company buried it, called it an accident, settled with the families out of court. My name never came up. Legally, I'm clear. But morally, she laughed bitterly. Morally, I'm guilty as hell. Ethan sat back. He didn't know what to say. What could you say to something like that? After it happened, Victoria continued, I tried to quit. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. Marcus Chen. I'd never even met him, but I looked him up, saw his picture. He looked kind, like someone's dad, someone's husband. She wiped her eyes. But then I thought, if I quit, what does that accomplish? It doesn't bring him back. It doesn't fix Andrea's arm. So I kept going. I told myself I'd be more careful. I'd never make that mistake again. But the truth is, I just got better at not thinking about it. Until now. Until now. She looked at him. Why did you make me say that? Why did you push? Because you needed to. I needed to keep it buried. That wasn't working. She shook her head. You don't get it. I can't come back from this. There's no redemption, no making it right. Maybe not. But you can stop running from it. And then what? What happens when I stop running? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's got to be better than this. Victoria stood up. I need to be alone. Victoria, please, I need to be alone. She walked out. Ethan let her go. He sat there in the empty library trying to process what he'd just heard. A man was dead. A woman was maimed. And Victoria had been carrying that for 5 years, alone, with no one to tell. No one to share the weight. He thought about what she'd said, about being scared of disappearing, about not having anyone. He understood that fear. He'd felt it himself after Sarah died. The fear that without her, he was nothing. That his identity was so tied to being her husband that without that role, he'd just cease to exist. But he'd had Mia, someone who needed him, someone who gave him a reason to keep going. Victoria didn't have that. She just had her work, her success, her reputation. And underneath it all, a guilt so deep it was eating her alive. He pulled out his phone and texted her again. I'm not going anywhere. Whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here. He didn't expect a response, but a minute later his phone buzzed. Thank you. He went back upstairs. The suite was empty. He made himself a sandwich from the mini fridge and ate it standing at the window, watching the plow trucks work on the roads. The sun was out now. The sky was blue. It looked like the storm had never happened, but inside everything had changed. Around 3 o'clock, Victoria came back. Her eyes were swollen, but she'd composed herself, put the armor back on. Roads are clear, she said. You can go home. What about you? I'm staying another night. I have work to do. Ethan studied her. She wouldn't meet his eyes. You don't have to do this alone. Do what? Carry it. The guilt. The weight of what happened. Yes, I do. It's mine to carry. That doesn't mean you have to carry it alone. She finally looked at him. Why do you care? You don't know me. Maybe I want to. Why? Because I think you're worth knowing. Behind all the walls and the armor and the bullshit, there's someone decent in there. Someone who's been hurting for a long time and doesn't know how to stop. Victoria's face crumpled, just for a second. Then she pulled it back together. You should go. Your daughter's waiting. I'm not leaving you like this. I'm fine. You're not fine, and that's okay. Ethan, please, just go. He wanted to argue, wanted to stay. But he could see in her eyes that she needed space, so he nodded. Okay, I'll go, but I'm giving you my number. And if you need to talk, you call me. Anytime, day or night. Understood? Understood. He wrote his number on the notepad by the phone. I mean it, Victoria. Don't sit with this alone. I won't. He grabbed his duffel and headed for the door. Then he stopped, turned back. For what it's worth, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you made a mistake. A terrible, costly mistake. But that doesn't make you irredeemable. How do you know? Because I've made mistakes too. Different ones, but just as real. And someone gave me a second chance. Maybe it's time you gave yourself one. He left before she could respond. The drive home took 3 hours. The roads were clear but slick. Ethan drove carefully, mind racing. He kept thinking about Victoria, about the pain in her eyes, about the way she'd confessed something she'd been carrying for 5 years and then tried to shut down immediately after. He wondered if she'd call. He wondered if she'd be okay. When he finally pulled into his driveway, Mia ran out before he'd even killed the engine. She threw her arms around him and he held her tight. "I missed you," she said. "I missed you too, kiddo." They went inside. The house was messy but intact. Mia had done the dishes, made her bed, even vacuumed the living room. "Look at you, being responsible," he said. "I'm 12, Dad. I can handle 24 hours alone." "I know you can. I'm proud of you." They made dinner together, spaghetti with garlic bread, Mia's favorite. They talked about school, about her friends, about nothing important. Normal life. Home life. But part of Ethan's mind was still at the lodge, still in that library, still watching Victoria's face as she confessed the thing that had been destroying her. He thought about what she'd said, about being scared, about not having anyone. And he made a decision. He wasn't going to let her disappear. 3 days passed before she called. Ethan was under a Honda Civic, replacing a worn brake line when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He slid out from under the car, wiped his hands on his coveralls, and checked the screen. Unknown number. "Hello? It's Victoria." He sat up so fast he almost hit his head on the undercarriage. "Hey, you okay?" A pause. "I don't know. Can we talk?" "Yeah, of course. When?" "Now, if you're free." He looked at the Civic, at the brake line dangling loose, at the clock on the wall. It was 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon. He had 3 more cars waiting, but something in her voice made him say, "Where are you?" "Charlotte, my office, but I can drive to you." "No, I'll come to you. Text me the address." "Ethan, you don't have to text me the address, Victoria." Another pause. Then, "Okay." He told Jimmy, his assistant, to finish the Civic and lock up when he was done. Jimmy raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Ethan changed out of his coveralls, washed his hands twice, and got in his truck. The drive to Charlotte took an hour and 20 minutes. Victoria's office was downtown, in one of those glass towers that looked like it cost more per floor than most people made in a year. He parked in the visitor lot and texted her. "I'm here, 10th floor, suite 1012. The lobby was all marble and chrome. A security guard checked his ID and gave him a visitor badge. The elevator was glass, too, showing the city dropping away as he rose. When the doors opened on the 10th floor, Victoria was waiting. She looked different. Smaller, somehow. Still in her work clothes, tailored pants, a silk blouse, but the armor didn't fit right anymore. Like she was wearing someone else's skin. "Thanks for coming," she said. "You asked." She led him down a hallway lined with offices. Through the glass walls, he could see people working, young professionals in expensive clothes, typing on computers, talking on phones. They all looked busy. Important. Like they were changing the world one spreadsheet at a time. Victoria's office was at the end of the hall. Corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city. Minimalist furniture, everything in shades of gray and white. A desk with nothing on it except a laptop and a coffee cup. Bookshelves lined with business texts and awards. It looked like a showroom, like no one actually worked here. "Nice place," Ethan said. "It's a cage." She closed the door behind him. "But it's my cage." She sat on the edge of her desk. Ethan took the chair across from her. "Why did you ask me to come?" he said. "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about what you said, about giving myself a second chance." She looked at her hands. "I haven't slept in 3 days. Every time I close my eyes, I see Marcus Chen. I see Andrea Lopez. I see the machine. And I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Pretending. Acting like I'm fine. Like I didn't destroy 2 families because I was too focused on profit margins to see people." She looked up at him. "I need to do something. I need to make it right." "How?" "I don't know. That's why I called you." Ethan leaned forward. "You can't bring him back. You can't give Andrea her arm back. But you can stop running. You can face what happened. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You tell the truth. Victoria stood up and walked to the window. If I tell the truth, I lose everything. My company, my reputation, everything I've built. Maybe, or maybe you lose the parts that were built on lies and keep the parts that matter. What parts matter? That's what you need to figure out. She pressed her forehead against the glass. I'm scared. I know. What if I do this and nothing changes? What if I confess and it doesn't make me feel better? What if the guilt just stays? Then at least you'll have told the truth. At least you'll have tried. Victoria turned around. Her eyes were wet. Why do you care so much? You barely know me. Because someone cared about me when I needed it. After Sarah died, my brother drove 6 hours just to sit with me. Didn't say anything, just sat there while I fell apart. And when I was done falling apart, he helped me put the pieces back together. Ethan stood up. Maybe I'm doing the same for you. I'm not your responsibility. No, but you're someone who needs help. And I can help, so I'm going to. She stared at him. Then she walked over and hugged him. It wasn't romantic. It was desperate. The hug of someone drowning who'd just been thrown a rope. Thank you, she whispered. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. They stood there for a moment. Then Victoria pulled back and wiped her eyes. I need to find Andrea Lopez. I need to talk to her. Are you sure that's a good idea? No, but I need to do it anyway. Ethan nodded. Okay, then let's do it. You'll come with me? If you want me to. I do. It took 2 days to find Andrea Lopez. Victoria hired a private investigator who tracked her down in Greensboro, working part-time at a grocery store. Victoria called her, explained who she was, and asked if they could meet. Andrea said yes, but her voice on the phone was cold, guarded. They drove to Greensboro on a Saturday morning. Ethan brought coffee. Victoria brought a folder full of documents, the safety report she'd ignored, the cost-benefit analysis she'd written, all the evidence of her guilt. She'd printed it out like she was preparing for court. You don't have to show her all that, Ethan said. Yes, I do. She deserves to know the truth. She already knows what happened. She knows there was an accident. She doesn't know I caused it. They met Andrea at a park near her apartment. She was in her 40s, dark hair starting to gray, wearing a jacket with the right sleeve pinned up. She looked tired, the kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep. Victoria walked up to her, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Then Victoria said, "Thank you for meeting me." Andrea's eyes were hard. "You said you had something to tell me about the accident." "I do. Can we sit?" They sat at a picnic table. Ethan stayed back, giving them space but close enough to hear. Victoria opened the folder and spread the documents across the table. 5 years ago, I was a consultant for Meridian Manufacturing, your employer. They hired me to help cut costs, and I told them to defer safety upgrades. I told them the equipment could wait. I ran the numbers and I decided that saving money was more important than protecting you and Marcus. Her voice was shaking. I was wrong. And because I was wrong, Marcus died, and you lost your arm. Andrea stared at the documents, then at Victoria. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know. Because I've been carrying this guilt for 5 years, and I can't carry it anymore, and because... Victoria took a breath. Because I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't bring Marcus back or give you your arm back. But I'm sorry. Andrea picked up one of the documents. Read it. Her face didn't change. You're the reason my kids had to watch me relearn how to eat, how to get dressed, how to do basic things with one hand. Yes. You're the reason I can't work a real job anymore. Why I'm stocking shelves part-time because no one else will hire me. Yes. You're the reason Marcus's wife had to bury her husband and explain to her kids why their dad wasn't coming home. Victoria's face crumpled. Yes. Andrea stood up. For a second, Ethan thought she was going to hit Victoria. Instead, she just looked at her. Do you know what the worst part is? No. The company paid me off, gave me a settlement, and made me sign an NDA. Told me if I ever talked about what happened, they'd take it all back. And I needed that money. My kids needed that money, so I took it and stayed quiet. And I've hated myself every day since. She threw the document down. You think saying sorry makes you better than them? You're just as guilty. More maybe because you knew the equipment was dangerous and you chose profit anyway. You're right. Victoria stood up too. You're absolutely right, and I can't change that. But I can tell you the truth, and I can try to make it right. How? How are you going to make this right? I don't know yet, but I'm going to try. And if you want, I'll testify. I'll go public. I'll tell everyone what I did. Andrea laughed bitterly. You think that'll help me? You think dragging this all back up will give me my life back? No, but it might stop it from happening to someone else. Andrea looked at her for a long time. Then she shook her head. I don't know if I can forgive you. I'm not asking you to. Good, because I can't. She started to walk away, then stopped. But for what it's worth, at least you had the guts to tell me. That's more than the company ever did. She left. Victoria stood there, staring at the empty space where Andrea had been. Ethan walked over and put a hand on her shoulder. You did the right thing, he said. It doesn't feel right. It's not supposed to, not yet. They drove back to Charlotte in silence. Victoria stared out the window the whole way, not speaking. When they got to her office building, she didn't get out of the truck. I need to do more, she said. Like what? I need to tell the truth, publicly. I need to make sure this never happens again. That's a big risk. I know, but it's the right thing to do. Ethan looked at her. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. She got out of the truck and walked into the building. Ethan sat there for a moment, then drove home. That night, Victoria called him again. I talked to a lawyer, she said. He says if I go public, I could face lawsuits. Criminal charges, maybe, depending on how the DA wants to play it. And you're still going to do it? Yes, but I need your help. What kind of help? I need someone who'll tell me when I'm being crazy. Someone who'll keep me honest. Someone who'll remind me why I'm doing this when it gets hard. You want me to be your conscience? I want you to be my friend. Ethan smiled. I can do that. Good, because I'm going to need it. Over the next 2 weeks, Victoria prepared her confession. She wrote a detailed account of what had happened at Meridian Manufacturing. She gathered all the documents, all the emails, everything that proved her role in the accident. She reached out to journalists, offered to go on the record. Most of them ignored her. A few said they'd think about it. One, a reporter from a business magazine, said yes. The interview was scheduled for a Wednesday afternoon. Victoria asked Ethan to be there. He drove to Charlotte, met her at her office, and went with her to the magazine's headquarters. The reporter was a woman in her 30s named Sarah Nguyen. Sharp eyes, sharper questions. She didn't waste time. Why are you coming forward now? She asked. Why not 5 years ago? Because I was a coward, Victoria said. I told myself it wasn't my fault, that I was just doing my job. But the truth is, I knew the equipment was dangerous. I knew people could get hurt, and I chose profit over safety. And you're willing to say that on the record? Yes. You understand this could destroy your career? Yes? Then why do it? Victoria looked at Ethan, then back at Sarah. Because I can't live with myself anymore. Because what I did was wrong, and someone needs to say it out loud. And because if I don't, it'll happen again. Some other consultant will make the same choice I did, and someone else will die. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, let's start from the beginning. The interview took 3 hours. Sarah asked hard questions. Victoria answered them honestly. By the end, Victoria looked exhausted, hollowed out. When will the article run? She asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. I need to verify everything, talk to the company, get their side. They'll deny it. Probably, but I'll print your version anyway. They left. In the parking lot, Victoria leaned against Ethan's truck and closed her eyes. That was the hardest thing I've ever done, she said. It's not over yet. I know. Ethan drove her back to her office. Before she got out, she turned to him. I need to ask you something. Okay. When the article comes out, things are going to get bad. I'll probably lose clients. My reputation will be destroyed. People will hate me. And I'm going to need support. Someone to remind me that I did the right thing. I'll be there. Are you sure? Because this isn't going to be pretty. I'm sure. She nodded. Thank you. You keep saying that. Because I mean it. The article came out 3 weeks later. It was on the cover of the magazine, a photo of Victoria, looking directly at the camera, with the headline, "The Cost of Cutting Corners, One Consultant's Deadly Mistake." It was thorough, detailed, damning. Sarah had done her homework. She'd tracked down Andrea Lopez, gotten her story. She'd contacted Marcus Chen's widow, who'd confirmed everything. She'd even gotten a statement from Meridian Manufacturing, who'd denied everything and threatened to sue. The response was immediate. Victoria's phone exploded with calls and emails. Some were supportive, most were angry. Clients started pulling contracts. Her employees were panicking. Her board of directors called an emergency meeting. Ethan drove to Charlotte the day the article dropped. He found Victoria in her office, staring at her computer screen, looking like she'd been hit by a truck. "How bad is it?" he asked. "3 clients terminated their contracts this morning. 2 more are threatening to. My board wants me to resign, and there's a lawyer from Meridian who says they're suing me for defamation." "Are they?" "Probably. Doesn't matter. Everything I said was true." "Then they won't win. They don't have to win. They just have to make my life hell." She closed her laptop. "I'm done, Ethan. I'm finished." "No, you're not." "Yes, I am. My career is over. My reputation is destroyed. Everything I built is gone." "Then build something else." She looked at him. "What?" "You heard me. Build something else, something better." "I don't know how." "Yes, you do. You're smart. You're capable. You just need to decide what kind of person you want to be." Victoria stood up and walked to the window. The city stretched out below her, indifferent to her pain. "What if I can't come back from this?" "Then you don't come back. You move forward." She turned around. "How?" "One step at a time." That night, at 3 a.m, Victoria called him. "I can't do this," she said. Her voice was wrecked. "I can't keep going. It's too hard." "Where are you?" "My apartment." "I'm coming over." "Ethan, it's 3 a.m. "I don't care." He got dressed, woke up Mia, explained that he had to go help a friend, and drove to Charlotte. Victoria's apartment was in a high-rise downtown. He parked illegally and took the elevator to the 20th floor. She answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, eyes red from crying. "You didn't have to come," she said. "Yes, I did." They sat on her couch. The apartment was immaculate, cold, nothing personal anywhere. It looked like a hotel. "Tell me what's going on," he said. "I got a call from Andrea Lopez. She said she's being harassed. People found out she talked to the reporter, and now they're sending her hate mail, telling her she's a liar, that she's just trying to get more money from the company." Victoria's voice broke. "I did this to her. I made her life worse." "That's not your fault. That's on the people sending the hate mail." "But I started it. I'm the one who went public." "You told the truth. That's not a crime." "It feels like one." She looked at him. "What if I made a mistake? What if I should have just stayed quiet?" "Then Marcus Chen's death would mean nothing, and it'll happen again. Is that what you want?" "No. But I don't want Andrea to suffer either." "Then help her. Hire her a lawyer. Offer her protection. Do something." Victoria nodded slowly. "You're right. I can do that. And you need to take care of yourself too. When's the last time you ate?" "I don't know. Yesterday, maybe?" He went to her kitchen, found some eggs and bread, and made her scrambled eggs and toast. She ate mechanically, not tasting anything. When she was done, he made her tea. "You should sleep," he said. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see their faces." "Then don't close your eyes. Lie down and rest." "Will you stay?" "Yeah, I'll stay." She went to her bedroom. He stayed on the couch. Around 4:30, he heard her crying. He got up, knocked on her door. "Come in," she said. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, shoulders shaking. He sat next to her. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "I don't know how to live with what I've done." "You just do. One day at a time." "What if it doesn't get easier?" "Then it doesn't. But you keep going anyway." She leaned against him. He put his arm around her. They sat like that until the sun came up. Over the next few days, Victoria started fighting back. She hired a lawyer to defend against Meridian's lawsuit. She hired another lawyer to represent Andrea Lopez and protect her from harassment. She set up a fund for Marcus Chen's family. She reached out to safety advocacy groups, offered to testify, to speak, to do whatever it took to change the system. It wasn't enough to erase what she'd done. But it was something. And slowly, very slowly, things started to change. A few smaller companies reached out, said they admired her courage, wanted to work with her. A safety nonprofit asked her to join their board. A university invited her to speak to their business ethics class. It wasn't the empire she'd had before, but it was real, honest. One evening, 3 months after the article came out, Victoria called Ethan. "I did something," she said. "What?" "I went to Marcus Chen's grave, I brought flowers, and I sat there and told him I was sorry. I know he can't hear me. I know it doesn't change anything, but I needed to do it." How do you feel? Lighter? Not good, but lighter. That's progress. Is it enough? I don't know. Is it? She was quiet for a moment. I think it might be. Someday. Ethan smiled. Then you're doing okay. I am, aren't I? Yeah, you are. They talked for a while longer. About nothing important. About everything. And when they hung up, Ethan realized something. Victoria Hale was going to be okay. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick. But she'd faced the truth, and she'd survived it, and that was enough. 6 months after the article, Victoria showed up at Ethan's shop unannounced. He was finishing an oil change on a Ford F-15. Oh, when he heard heels clicking across the concrete floor. He rolled out from under the truck, and there she was. Tailored navy suit, hair pulled back, leather briefcase in hand. She looked like the old Victoria, the one from the lodge. But something was different in her eyes. Softer, maybe. Less guarded. "You need an oil change, Wyke?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. "I need to talk to you." He stood up. "Everything okay?" "Yes. Actually better than okay. Can we go somewhere private?" He led her to his office, a cramped room with a desk covered in paperwork, a filing cabinet that didn't close properly, and a coffee maker that had seen better days. She sat in the chair across from his desk, set her briefcase down, and folded her hands. "I want to offer you a job," she said. Ethan laughed. "Doing what?" "I'm a mechanic." "I know what you are, but I also know you're smart, honest, and you understand people better than anyone I've ever met." She leaned forward. "I'm rebuilding my company. Smaller, different focus. I'm moving away from pure profit optimization and towards sustainable business practices, helping companies become more efficient without sacrificing worker safety or ethics. And I need someone who can keep me honest. Someone who'll tell me when I'm crossing a line. You want me to be your moral compass? I want you to be my partner." Ethan set down the rag. "Victoria, I don't know anything about corporate consulting. You know about integrity. You know about doing the right thing even when it's hard. That's more valuable than any MBA. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. "I'm not asking you to leave your shop. I'm asking you to help me part-time. A few days a month. Review my proposals, sit in on client meetings, give me your perspective, and I'll pay you well, very well." He looked at the folder. Didn't open it. "Why me?" "Because you saved my life." "I didn't." "Yes, you did. You saw me drowning and you threw me a rope, and now I'm asking you to help me build something better, something that won't destroy people." Her voice cracked slightly. "I can't do this alone, Ethan. I need help, and I trust you." He picked up the folder, opened it. The salary number made his stomach drop. It was more than he made in 6 months at the shop. "This is too much," he said. "No, it's what you're worth. Victoria, please, just think about it." He looked at her, at the hope in her eyes, at the vulnerability she was showing him. "Okay, I'll think about it. Thank you." She left. Ethan sat at his desk, staring at the folder. Part of him wanted to say yes immediately. The money would change his life, Mia's life. He could finally afford to fix the truck properly, maybe take her on a real vacation, start a college fund that was more than wishful thinking. But another part of him was scared. Scared of leaving what he knew. Scared of failing at something new. Scared of letting Victoria down. That night, he talked to Mia about it. "You should do it," she said immediately. "Just like that?" Dad, you're always telling me to take chances, to try new things. Maybe you should listen to your own advice. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I'm comfortable here. I know how to fix cars. I don't know how to do whatever it is Victoria wants me to do. Mia set down her fork. You know what Mom used to say? She said you were the bravest person she knew because you weren't afraid to try things even when you didn't know if you'd succeed. Your mom was biased. She was right. Mia reached across the table and took his hand. You helped Victoria when she needed it. Now she's trying to help you. You should let her. He squeezed her hand. When did you get so smart? I learned from you. 2 days later, he called Victoria and said yes. The first few months were awkward. Ethan felt like a fish out of water in Victoria's world. Conference rooms with glass walls, people in expensive suits talking about market dynamics and operational efficiency. Presentations with charts and graphs that might as well have been in another language. But Victoria was patient. She explained things, translated the corporate speak into plain English, and slowly, Ethan started to understand. More importantly, he started to contribute. In his third week, Victoria brought him to a meeting with a textile company that was struggling with high turnover. The CEO wanted to cut benefits to save money. Victoria was about to agree when Ethan spoke up. Can I see the turnover data? The CEO looked annoyed. Why? Because I'm curious. Victoria nodded. Show him. The data showed that most employees left within 6 months. Exit interviews cited long hours, low pay, and poor working conditions. You don't have a benefits problem, Ethan said. You have a retention problem, and cutting benefits will make it worse. You'll save money in the short term, but you'll lose more in training costs when people keep leaving. So what do you suggest? The CEO asked, defensive. Pay them better. Give them reasonable hours. Treat them like people instead of parts of a machine. You'll spend more up front, but you'll save money in the long run because people will actually want to stay. The CEO looked at Victoria. Is he serious? Yes, and he's right. They didn't get that client. The CEO walked out, said Victoria's firm had gone soft, but Victoria didn't care. That's exactly why I hired you, she told Ethan afterward, to stop me from making deals that hurt people. You would have figured it out. Maybe, but you made sure of it. Over the next year, Victoria's company changed. Word got out that she was doing business differently. Some clients left, but new ones came. Companies that actually wanted to do better, that saw employee welfare as an investment rather than a cost. The firm stayed smaller than it had been, but it was profitable. And more importantly, it was clean. Ethan split his time between the shop and Victoria's office. It wasn't easy. Some days he felt torn in half, like he was failing at both jobs. But Mia was proud of him, and Victoria relied on him, so he made it work. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon in October, everything changed. Ethan was at the shop when Victoria called. Her voice was tight, controlled, but he could hear the fear underneath. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Arthur Callahan. He's on my board. He's been asking questions about my past, about Meridian Manufacturing. So? You already went public with that. I know, but he's digging deeper. He hired an investigator, and I think he's planning something. Like what? I don't know, but I need to find out. Ethan locked up the shop early and drove to Charlotte. When he got to Victoria's office, she was pacing, phone in hand. Tell me what's going on, he said. She handed him her phone. On the screen was an email from Arthur Callahan, sent to the entire board. I've become aware of serious ethical concerns regarding Victoria's past work. I'm calling an emergency board meeting for Friday to discuss her fitness to continue as CEO. Details will be provided at the meeting. He's trying to remove you, Ethan said. Yes. Based on what? You already told everyone about Meridian. I don't know, but Arthur's connected. If he found something, it's bad. Then we need to find out what he knows. Victoria stopped pacing. How? Talk to him, directly. Don't wait for the board meeting. Confront him now. What if he won't tell me? Then we figure it out another way. But we can't just sit here waiting. Victoria nodded. Okay, I'll call him. Arthur Callahan agreed to meet that evening at a restaurant downtown. Victoria asked Ethan to come with her. They arrived 15 minutes early and waited at a corner table. When Arthur walked in, Ethan understood immediately why Victoria was worried. He was in his 60s, silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of guy who looked like he'd been born in a boardroom. He walked with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. When he sat down, he didn't bother with pleasantries. "Victoria, and you must be her mechanic." "Ethan Cole." He didn't offer to shake hands. Arthur smiled thinly. "I've heard about you. The conscience, how quaint." Victoria leaned forward. "What do you want, Arthur?" "I want what's best for the company." "Which is?" "New leadership. You've done well, Victoria. You've rebuilt your reputation, rebranded the firm. But the board is concerned about long-term stability. Your past mistakes create liability." "I disclosed everything about Meridian when I took this position. The board knew." "They knew what you told them. But you didn't tell them everything, did you?" Victoria went pale. "What are you talking about?" Arthur pulled a folder from his briefcase. "After Meridian, you worked for 3 other companies, all manufacturing, all with safety concerns. And in all 3 cases, you recommended cost-cutting measures that deferred maintenance and upgrades." He slid the folder across the table. "No one died, thankfully, but the pattern is clear. You prioritize profit over safety multiple times, not just once." Ethan opened the folder. Inside were contracts, emails, reports, all with Victoria's name on them. "These are out of context," Victoria said, but her voice was shaking. "Are they? Because they look pretty damning to me." Arthur leaned back. "The board meeting is Friday. I'm going to present this evidence and recommend your removal. You can fight it, but you'll lose. Or you can resign now, quietly, and we'll part ways amicably." "You want me to resign?" "I want what's best for the company, and right now that's not you." Victoria stood up. "This is about the new safety protocols I implemented. You've been fighting me on them for months. Those protocols are expensive and unnecessary. They're necessary. They protect workers. They protect your conscience, but they hurt our bottom line, and the board is starting to notice." Ethan stood up too. "So this is a power play. You want her out so you can go back to the old way of doing business." Arthur looked at him with contempt. "This is business, Mr. Cole, not a morality play. If Victoria can't handle that, she shouldn't be running a company. She's handling it just fine. You're just scared she's making you look bad. I'm scared she's going to run this company into the ground with her newfound ethics." Arthur stood. "Friday, Victoria. Either resign or be removed. Your choice." He left. Victoria sat back down, her hands shaking. "He's right," she said quietly. "I did work for those companies. I did recommend cost cuts. I didn't learn my lesson after Meridian. I kept making the same mistakes." "Did anyone get hurt?" "No, but they could have." "But they didn't, and you changed. You're not that person anymore." "Tell that to the board." Ethan sat down next to her. "We have 3 days. We can figure this out." "How? Arthur has evidence. He has the board's ear. I have nothing." "You have the truth, and you have me." She looked at him. "What can you do?" "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking. Arthur Callahan was playing dirty, using Victoria's past against her, twisting it to serve his agenda. But there had to be something they could use, some way to fight back. Around 2 in the morning, his phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. "Are you awake?" "Yeah." "Can I call you?" "Of course," she called. Her voice was rough, like she'd been crying. "I've been thinking, maybe Arthur's right. Maybe I should resign." "Don't do that." "Why not? He's going to destroy me either way. At least if I resign, I control the narrative." "You control nothing if you resign. You're just letting him win." "Then what do I do?" "You fight. You tell the board the truth, all of it, not just the parts Arthur wants them to hear." "What if they don't believe me?" "Then at least you tried." She was quiet for a long time. Then, "Will you be there? At the meeting? You want me there?" "I need you there." "Then I'll be there." Friday came. The board meeting was at 10. Ethan wore the only suit he owned, the one he'd bought for Sarah's funeral and hadn't touched since. It didn't fit quite right anymore, a little tight in the shoulders, but it would do. Victoria picked him up at 9. She was dressed like she was going to war, black suit, hair pulled back tight, makeup perfect, but her hands were shaking when she gripped the steering wheel. "You ready?" Ethan asked. "No." "Good. If you were ready, I'd be worried." She smiled just a little. "Thank you for doing this." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." The board meeting was in a conference room on the 15th floor of Victoria's building. 7 board members sat around a long table. Arthur Callahan was at one end, looking smug. Victoria sat at the other end. Ethan took a chair against the wall, trying to look like he belonged. Arthur started immediately. "Thank you all for coming. I've called this meeting because I have serious concerns about Victoria's fitness to lead this company." He opened his folder and distributed copies to each board member. "As you can see from these documents, Victoria has a history of prioritizing cost-cutting over worker safety, not just at Meridian Manufacturing, but at multiple clients over a 5-year period." One of the board members, a woman named Janet Morris, frowned. Victoria disclosed the Meridian incident when she took this position. "We discussed it extensively." "She disclosed one incident, not a pattern." Arthur looked at Victoria. "Would you like to explain?" Victoria stood up. Her hands were still shaking, but her voice was steady. "Yes, I would." She took a breath. "Everything Arthur said is true. After Meridian, I did continue to recommend cost-cutting measures that affected safety. I told myself I'd learned my lesson, but I hadn't. I was still operating from the same playbook, profit over people." "And you didn't think to disclose this?" Arthur said. "I didn't see it as relevant. No one was hurt in those other cases." But Arthur's right. The pattern was there. I was repeating the same mistakes. "So you admit you're unfit to lead?" "No, I admit I was unfit, but I'm not that person anymore." Arthur laughed. "Convenient." "It's true." Victoria looked around the table. 6 months ago, I went public about Meridian. I exposed my own mistakes. I destroyed my own reputation. Do you know why? Because I couldn't live with myself anymore. Because I realized that success built on other people's suffering isn't success at all. Her voice got stronger. "Since then, I've rebuilt this company from the ground up. We've lost clients who wanted us to cut corners, but we've gained clients who want to do better. And we're profitable. More profitable than we were before. Because companies are starting to understand that treating workers well is good business." "That's a nice speech," Arthur said. "But speeches don't change the past." "No, they don't. But actions do. I've implemented safety protocols across every client engagement. I've hired consultants like Ethan to keep me accountable. I've made this company about more than just profit. And if you remove me, you're not removing someone who's a liability. You're removing someone who's trying to build something better." Janet Morris spoke up. "Arthur, what's your real concern here? Because it sounds like Victoria's already addressed these issues." "My concern is that she's changed the fundamental direction of this company without board approval. She's making us less competitive." "Less competitive or less ruthless?" Victoria asked. "There's no difference in business." "Yes, there is. And that's why you want me gone. Because I won't go back to the old way of doing things. I won't sacrifice people for profit margins." Arthur stood up. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. She's turned this company into a charity instead of a business." "We're not a charity," Victoria said. "We're profitable. Check the numbers." "Barely." "Profitably and sustainably and ethically. Ethics don't pay the bills." "They do if you do them right." The board members looked at each other. Ethan could see them calculating, weighing options. Then Janet Morris spoke. "I'd like to hear from Mr. Cole." Everyone turned to look at Ethan. He stood up, feeling completely out of place. "I'm not a board member," he said. "I'm just a mechanic." "You're also Victoria's business partner," Janet said. "What's your take on this?" Ethan looked at Victoria, then at Arthur, then at the board. 6 months ago, Victoria came to me and asked for help. She was drowning in guilt over what happened at Meridian. She couldn't sleep, couldn't function, and instead of hiding from it, she faced it. She told the truth, even though it destroyed her reputation, even though it cost her everything. He paused. "I've worked with her for the last 6 months. I've sat in on meetings. I've reviewed proposals, and I can tell you that she's the most ethical person I've ever met in business. She turns down clients who want to cut corners. She pushes back on companies that treat workers like disposable parts. She's building something real here, something that matters." He looked at Arthur. "You're not trying to remove her because she's unfit. You're trying to remove her because she's making you uncomfortable, because she's proving that you can be successful without being ruthless. And that scares you. Arthur's face went red. How dare you? It's true, though, isn't it? Ethan continued. You want to go back to the old way. Maximum profit, minimum ethics. And Victoria won't let you, so you're trying to get rid of her. This is absurd. I'm trying to protect this company. No, you're trying to protect yourself. Janet Morris held up her hand. All right, that's enough. Arthur, do you have any evidence that Victoria has done anything illegal or unethical since taking this position? Arthur hesitated. No, but then I don't see grounds for removal. She disclosed her past. She's changed her approach. And the company is profitable. What more do you want? I want leadership that's focused on growth, not guilt. I think growth and ethics can coexist. Janet looked at the other board members. I move that we table this discussion and revisit it in 6 months. If the company continues to perform well, Victoria stays. If not, we reconsider. All in favor? 5 hands went up. Arthur and 1 other board member kept their hands down. Motion carries. Janet looked at Arthur. Unless you have something else? Arthur grabbed his folder and stood up. This isn't over. Yes, Victoria said quietly. It is. He left. The other board members filed out, some of them nodding at Victoria, others avoiding eye contact. When they were gone, Victoria collapsed into her chair. That was close, she said. Too close, Ethan agreed. Thank you. For what you said, you didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. She looked at him. He's going to come after me again. He won't stop. Then we'll deal with it when he does. I can't keep fighting him forever. You won't have to. He showed his hand today. The board saw what he's really about. Next time he tries something, they'll remember. Victoria nodded slowly. I hope you're right. I am. They sat there for a while, neither of them speaking. Then Victoria said, I need to tell you something. Okay. When I met you at that lodge, I was at the lowest point of my life. I was successful, I was powerful, but I was empty. And I thought that was just how life was. That emptiness was the price of success. She looked at him. But you showed me something different. You showed me that it's possible to be decent and still survive. That you don't have to sacrifice your humanity to make it in this world. I didn't do anything special. You did. You saw me when I was falling apart. And instead of walking away, you stayed, and that changed everything. Ethan felt his throat tighten. I'm glad I could help. You did more than help. You saved me. She reached across the table and took his hand. Whatever happens next, I want you to know that. You saved my life. He squeezed her hand. Then I guess we're even, because you're changing mine. They sat there, hands clasped, 2 people who'd been strangers 6 months ago, and were now something neither of them could quite name. Something that felt like friendship, but ran deeper. Something that felt like trust, but was more complicated. Something that felt like hope. 3 weeks after this board meeting, Arthur Callahan made his move. Ethan was at home making breakfast for Mia when his phone rang. Victoria. He answered on the first ring. He leaked it, she said. No preamble. Her voice was flat, defeated. Leaked what? Everything. All the documents he showed the board. He sent them to a reporter. It's going to be in the business section tomorrow. Victoria Hale's pattern of negligence. That's the headline. Ethan set down the spatula. Does the board know? Janet called me an hour ago. Emergency meeting Monday morning. Arthur's pushing for an immediate vote to remove me. Can he do that? If he has enough support, yes. She took a shaky breath. I think this is it, Ethan. I think I'm done. Don't say that. We'll figure something out. There's nothing to figure out. He has the evidence. He has the narrative. I'm finished. Victoria, I have to go. I need to think. She hung up. Ethan stood there holding his phone, feeling helpless. Mia walked into the kitchen, backpack over her shoulder. Is Victoria okay? She asked. No, she's not. Are you going to help her? I don't know how. Mia walked over and hugged him. You'll figure it out. You always do. He drove Mia to school, then called Jimmy and told him to handle the shop for the day. Then he got in his truck and drove to Charlotte. He didn't have a plan, didn't know what he was going to do. He just knew he couldn't sit at home while Victoria fell apart. When he got to her office, the receptionist said Victoria wasn't in, hadn't been in all morning. Ethan tried calling her. No answer. He texted. Nothing. He drove to her apartment, knocked. No response. He was about to leave when the door opened. Victoria stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair unwashed, eyes red and swollen. She looked like she hadn't slept. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Checking on you. I'm fine." "You're not fine." She turned and walked back into the apartment, leaving the door open. Ethan followed. The place was a mess. Papers scattered across the coffee table, empty wine bottles on the counter, her laptop open with what looked like a resignation letter on the screen. "You're resigning?" he asked. "What choice do I have?" "You fight, like you did at the board meeting." That was different. The board was neutral then. Now Arthur's poisoned them. They're going to vote me out anyway. At least if I resign, I keep some dignity. There's no dignity in quitting. There's no dignity in being fired either. She sat on the couch and pulled her knees to her chest. "It's over, Ethan. I tried to build something better, and it didn't work. Arthur was right. Ethics don't pay the bills, and they certainly don't protect you from people who want to destroy you." Ethan sat next to her. "You really believe that?" "I don't know what I believe anymore." She wiped her eyes. "I'm so tired. Tired of fighting, tired of trying to be better, tired of carrying this guilt. Maybe it's easier to just give up." "That's not you talking. That's exhaustion." "Maybe exhaustion is just clarity without hope." He didn't have an answer for that, so he just sat with her. They stayed like that for a long time, neither speaking. Then Ethan's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Andrea Lopez. I need to talk to you. It's about Victoria." He showed Victoria the message. She barely looked at it. "Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I tried." "I think you should talk to her yourself." "I can't, not right now." Ethan stood up. "Then I'll talk to her, and you're going to shower and eat something, because you look like hell and you need to take care of yourself." "What's the point?" "The point is you're not dead yet, so act like it." He left before she could argue. He called Andrea on his way down to the lobby. "This is Ethan Cole." "Mr. Cole, thank you for calling back. I saw the article that's coming out tomorrow. About Victoria." "Yeah, it's bad." "I know. That's why I'm calling. I want to help her." Ethan stopped walking. "What?" "I want to help Victoria. Can you meet me? I have something she needs to see." They met at a coffee shop in Greensboro 2 hours later. Andrea was waiting at a corner table, a manila folder in front of her. She looked nervous. "Thank you for coming," she said as Ethan sat down. "What's this about?" Andrea slid the folder across the table. "After Victoria came to see me last year, I started thinking about the accident, about what really happened, and I realized there were things that didn't add up." "Like what?" "Like the safety reports. The company said the equipment passed inspection 2 months before the accident, but I remember that inspection. The inspector spent maybe 20 minutes looking at the machines. There's no way he did a thorough check." "You think the inspection was fake?" "I think it was rushed at best, falsified at worst." She tapped the folder. "I started digging, filed some Freedom of Information requests, talked to other former employees, and I found something." Ethan opened the folder. Inside were documents, inspection reports, emails, financial records. He started reading. "The inspector was on Meridian's payroll," Andrea said. "Not officially, but they were paying him consulting fees, $20,000 over 2 years, and every inspection he did came back clean, even when employees were reporting problems." Ethan looked up. "Did Victoria know about this?" "No, she wasn't there when the inspections happened. The company hired her after the fact to help with costs. They showed her inspection reports that said everything was fine. She didn't know they were lying. So she made recommendations based on false information." "Yes, she's not blameless. She should have done more due diligence, but the company set her up. They used her recommendations as cover for their own negligence." Ethan felt something shift in his chest. "Why are you telling me this?" Andrea looked down at her coffee. "Because I've been angry at Victoria for a year. Angry that she got to walk away while I'm stuck with this." She gestured to her missing arm. "But then I saw what she's been doing, how she's been trying to change, and I realized that staying angry wasn't helping anyone. Not me, not Marcus's family, not anyone." She looked up at him. "She made a mistake. But so did I. I signed that NDA. I took the money and stayed quiet. Maybe if I'd spoken up, things would be different. Maybe not. But I didn't even try. What do you want to do with this? I want to give it to Victoria. Let her decide what to do with it. Ethan gathered the papers and put them back in the folder. Thank you. This means everything. Tell her... Andrea hesitated. Tell her I forgive her. I'm not sure I'm ready to say it to her face yet, but tell her. I will. He drove straight back to Charlotte. When he got to Victoria's apartment, she'd showered and changed, but she still looked hollow. She was sitting at her laptop, staring at the resignation letter. Don't send that, Ethan said. Why not? He set this folder on the table. Because we have a way to fight back. He explained everything, the falsified inspections, the payments, the cover-up. Victoria read through the documents with growing disbelief. They lied to me, she said. The whole time, they lied. Yes, you still made the recommendations, but you made them based on information they manipulated. This doesn't absolve me. No, but it changes the story. You weren't just some consultant who didn't care about safety. You were someone who got played by a corrupt company. Victoria closed the folder. What do I do with this? You go to the board meeting Monday and you tell them the truth. All of it. Not just your mistakes, but what Meridian did. And then you let them decide. What if they still vote me out? Then at least you fought. At least you didn't give up. She looked at him. Why are you doing this? Why do you keep fighting for me? Because you're worth fighting for. And because I've seen what you're capable of when you're not drowning in guilt. I've seen the good you can do, and the world needs more of that. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are. You just don't see it yet. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city was lit up against the night sky. If I do this, Arthur's going to come after me harder. He'll twist this somehow. Let him try. You have a lot of faith in me. I have faith in the truth, and the truth is on your side. She turned around. Okay, I'll do it, but I need your help. You've got it. They spent the weekend preparing. Ethan helped Victoria organize the evidence, practice her presentation, anticipate questions. By Sunday night, she was ready. Still scared, but ready. Monday morning, they drove to the office together. The board meeting was at 10. Arthur was already there when they arrived, looking confident. Smug, even. Victoria, he said, I'm surprised you came. I thought you might save us all the trouble and just resign. I'm not resigning. You should. The article comes out tomorrow. By Wednesday, you'll be toxic. We'll see about that. The board members filed in. Janet Morris took her seat at the head of the table. All right. Arthur called this meeting. Arthur, the floor is yours. Arthur stood up. Thank you, Janet. I'll be brief. As you all know, there's an article being published tomorrow that exposes Victoria's pattern of negligence across multiple clients. This isn't a single mistake. It's a pattern of behavior that makes her unfit to lead this company. I'm calling for an immediate vote to remove her as CEO. Victoria? Janet said. Your response? Victoria stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Everything Arthur said is true. I did work for multiple companies where I recommended cost-cutting measures that affected safety. But what Arthur didn't tell you is why. She opened the folder and distributed copies of Andrea's documents to each board member. These are internal documents from Meridian Manufacturing. They show that the company falsified safety inspections and paid off the inspector to sign off on faulty equipment. When they hired me, they showed me inspection reports that said everything was safe. I had no reason to doubt them. So when they asked me to help cut costs, I recommended deferring upgrades because I believed the equipment was sound. Arthur's face went red. That's irrelevant. You still made the recommendations. It's not irrelevant. It's context. Yes, I made those recommendations, but I made them based on false information. The company lied to me, then used my recommendations as cover for their own negligence. That doesn't excuse what happened. No, it doesn't. But it changes the narrative. I wasn't some heartless consultant who didn't care about workers. I was someone who got manipulated by a corrupt company. And when I found out what happened, I took responsibility. I went public. I destroyed my own reputation to tell the truth. How many people in this room would have done that? Silence. And since then, Victoria continued, I've spent every day trying to build something better. We've turned down clients who wanted us to cut corners. We've implemented safety protocols that other firms think are excessive. We've proven that you can be ethical and profitable. And if you remove me now, you're not removing someone who's a liability. You're removing someone who's trying to change an entire industry. Janet Morris looked at Arthur. Did you know about these documents? I knew Meridian was involved in a scandal, but did you know they falsified inspections? Arthur hesitated. It was alleged, never proven. Because they settled out of court and buried the evidence. Victoria looked at the board. Arthur didn't tell you any of this because it doesn't fit his narrative. He wants you to think I'm reckless and unethical so he can remove me and go back to business as usual. But the truth is, I'm the only thing standing between this company and the kind of practices that destroy lives. One of the board members, an older man named Robert Chen, spoke up. I've been reviewing our financials. We're more profitable now than we were 2 years ago. And our client retention is up 30%. Whatever Victoria's doing, it's working. Because she's lucky, Arthur said. But luck runs out. It's not luck, Ethan said. Everyone turned to look at him. It's trust. Companies want to work with Victoria because they trust her. They know she's not going to cut corners or put their workers at risk. That's worth more than any cost-cutting recommendation. Arthur glared at him. You're not a board member. You don't get a vote. No, but I get an opinion. And my opinion is that Victoria is the best thing that ever happened to this company. Not because she's perfect, she's not, but because she's honest. She owns her mistakes, she learns from them, and she's building something that actually matters. Janet looked around the table. All right, let's vote. All in favor of removing Victoria as CEO? Arthur raised his hand. One other board member joined him. All opposed? 5 hands went up. Motion fails. Victoria stays. Janet looked at Arthur. And Arthur, if you leak company information to the press again, you're off this board. Are we clear? Arthur stood up, grabbed his briefcase, and walked out without a word. Victoria collapsed into her chair. Ethan put a hand on her shoulder. You did it, he said. We did it. She looked up at him. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. After the meeting, Victoria and Ethan went back to her office. She closed the door and sat on the edge of her desk. That was close, she said. Too close. Arthur's going to try again. You know that, right? Let him. The board knows what he is now. He doesn't have the leverage he thinks he does. Victoria nodded. I need to call Andrea, thank her for what she did. She said to tell you she forgives you. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She said that? Yeah. She said she's not ready to say it to your face yet, but she forgives you. Victoria put her hand over her mouth. I don't deserve that. Maybe not, but you're getting it anyway. She wiped her eyes. What happens now? Now you keep doing what you're doing. You keep building. You keep being honest. And you trust that it's enough. What if it's not? Then we figure it out together. She looked at him. You're a good friend, Ethan Cole. So are you, Victoria Hale. 2 months later, the article that Arthur leaked came out. But by then, the narrative had changed. Victoria had already gone on record with the full story, the falsified inspections, the corporate cover-up, her own mistakes. And instead of destroying her, the article actually helped. It positioned her as someone who'd been victimized by a corrupt company and had spent years atoning for her role in what happened. The response was overwhelming. Other companies started coming forward with their own stories of consultants who'd prioritized profit over safety. Victoria became a voice for reform. She testified before Congress about the need for stricter safety regulations. She started a nonprofit dedicated to worker safety advocacy. Her company grew. Not huge, but steady, profitable, clean. And Arthur Callahan? He resigned from the board 3 months after the vote, citing personal reasons. But everyone knew the truth. He'd lost. One evening in December, almost a year after the lodge, Victoria came to Brevard to visit. She had dinner with Ethan and Mia, spaghetti and garlic bread, Mia's favorite. They talked and laughed, and it felt easy. Natural. After Mia went to bed, Victoria and Ethan sat on the porch, drinking coffee in the cold. I've been thinking, Victoria said, about that night at the lodge. Yeah? If you hadn't been there, I don't think I'd be here now. Not like this, anyway. I'd still be running, still hiding from what I'd done. You would have figured it out eventually. I don't know. I think I needed someone to see me, really see me. Not the persona, not the success, just me. She looked at him. You did that, and it changed everything. Ethan took a sip of his coffee. You did the same for me. How? You reminded me that life's bigger than survival, that there's more to living than just getting through the day. I'd forgotten that after Sarah died, but you helped me remember. Victoria smiled. So we saved each other. I guess we did. They sat in comfortable silence, watching their breath fog in the cold air. Then Victoria said, I went to Marcus Chen's grave again last week. How was it? Easier. I brought his widow. We talked for a long time. She's still angry. But she's also, I don't know, willing to listen, maybe. It's something. It's more than something. It's progress. Yeah, Victoria finished her coffee. I also set up a scholarship fund in his name for his kids. It won't bring him back, but maybe it'll help them build the future he wanted for them. That's good, really good. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's what I can do. Ethan looked at her. You know what I think? What? I think Marcus Chen would be proud of you for what you've done, for how you've changed. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. You think so? Yeah, I do. She wiped her eyes and smiled. Thank you for that. It's true. They talked for another hour about nothing and everything, about their work, their lives, their hopes. And when Victoria finally left, driving back to Charlotte in the dark, Ethan stood on the porch and watched her taillights disappear. Mia came out, wrapped in a blanket. You like her, don't you? She's my friend. She's more than that. Ethan looked at his daughter. What makes you say that? Because you smile different when she's around. Like you're not just going through the motions, like you're actually happy. He pulled her close. I am happy, kiddo. Happier than I've been in a long time. Mom would like her, I think. Yeah, she would. They stood there together, father and daughter, watching the empty road. And for the first time in 3 years, Ethan felt something he'd forgotten how to feel. Peace. Not the absence of pain, not the erasure of loss, but the quiet knowledge that he'd survived, that he'd helped someone else survive, that life, messy and complicated and imperfect as it was still worth living. He'd started that journey on a mountain in a blizzard, desperate and alone. He'd ended it here, on his porch, with his daughter by his side and a friend who understood what it meant to carry the weight of the past while building towards something better. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 6 months after that, Victoria called Ethan with news. She'd been invited to speak at a business ethics conference in Boston. Would he come with her? Why? He asked. Because I want you there. Because you're part of this story. I'm just a mechanic. You're more than that, and you know it. He went. He sat in the audience and watched Victoria take the stage, watched her tell the story of Marcus Chen, of Andrea Lopez, of her own failures and redemption, watched her speak with honesty and humility and strength. And when she was done, when the audience stood and applauded, she looked at him and smiled. He smiled back. Because they'd both learned the same lesson in different ways. That strength isn't about power or control. It's about honesty, about facing the truth even when it's hard, about choosing to be better even when no one's watching. It's about standing beside people when they're falling apart and reminding them that they're not alone. It's about second chances and third chances and as many chances as it takes to get it right. That night, after the conference, Victoria and Ethan walked through the Boston streets, talking about everything and nothing. I've been thinking about expanding the nonprofit, Victoria said, opening chapters in other cities, training consultants to prioritize safety over profit. That's ambitious. I know, but I think it's possible, with the right people. You asking me to join you? She stopped walking. Actually, yes, I am. Victoria. I need you, Ethan. Not just as a consultant, as a partner, someone who will help me build this, someone I can trust. He looked at her, at the hope in her eyes, at the vulnerability she was showing him. I don't know if I can leave the shop. You don't have to. We'll figure it out. We always do. He thought about it. About Mia, who was thriving. About his shop, which was running well, about the life he'd built from the ashes of grief. And he thought about Victoria, about the person she'd become, about the good they could do together. "Okay," he said. "I'm in." She threw her arms around him. "Thank you, thank you." "You're welcome." They stood there on the street corner, two people who'd found each other in a storm and had rebuilt their lives together. Not romantically, not perfectly, but honestly, truly. And that was enough. 2 years later, Ethan stood in Victoria's office, now relocated to a bigger space with room for the growing nonprofit. He was looking at a photo on the wall. Victoria standing with Andrea Lopez and Marcus Chen's widow at the dedication of a worker safety center built in Marcus's name. "Hard to believe how far we've come," Victoria said, walking in with coffee. "Yeah, it is. You ever regret it, leaving the shop?" "I didn't leave it. Jimmy runs it now. I just consult." He smiled. "And no, I don't regret it." "Good, because I couldn't do this without you." "Yes, you could, but I'm glad you don't have to." She sat at her desk. "I got a call from Meridian Manufacturing." "What?" "They want to hire us to help them rebuild their safety program." Ethan stared at her. "You're kidding." "Nope. They have new leadership. They want to do better, and they specifically asked for me." "What did you say?" "I said I'd think about it." She looked at him. "What do you think I should do?" He thought about it. About Marcus Chen. About Andrea Lopez. About all the people who'd been hurt by that company's negligence. And he thought about forgiveness. About second chances. About the possibility of redemption. "I think you should do it," he said, "but only if you can do it right. No compromises. No cutting corners. Full transparency." "That's what I was thinking," she smiled. "You know what the best part is?" "What?" "They're willing to pay whatever it takes, because they know that doing it right is worth more than saving money." "Then it sounds like they've learned their lesson." "Maybe. Or maybe they're just scared of another lawsuit. But either way, we can help them. Really help them." "Then let's do it." They shook hands. Partners. Friends. Two people who'd found each other in the darkness and had helped each other find the light. That evening, Ethan drove home to Brevard. Mia was 16 now, getting ready to apply to colleges. She was smart, confident, kind, everything he and Sarah had hoped she'd become. "How was work?" she asked at dinner. "Good. We might be taking on a big project." "The Meridian thing Victoria told me about?" "Yeah, how'd you know about that?" "She texted me, asked what I thought." Ethan smiled. "And what did you say?" "I said you two could do anything if you worked together." She paused. "I also said I thought Mom would be proud of both of you." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "Thanks, kiddo." "It's true, though. You've built something real, something that matters. That's what Mom always wanted for you, to do work that meant something. She wanted that for you, too." "I know. That's why I'm going into social work." He looked at her. "You are?" "Yeah. I've been thinking about it for a while. I want to help people, like you and Victoria do, like Mom did before she got sick." Pride swelled in his chest. "She would love that." "I know." They finished dinner, cleaned up together. And later, when Mia went upstairs to do homework, Ethan stood at the kitchen window looking out at the night. He thought about Sarah, about how much he missed her, how much he wished she could see their daughter now, see the life they'd built. But he also thought about the journey, about the storm that had stranded him at a lodge with a stranger, about how that stranger had become one of the most important people in his life, about how they'd saved each other in ways neither of them could have predicted. Life was strange like that. You think you know where you're going, and then a blizzard hits, and suddenly you're somewhere completely different, with people you never expected to meet, building things you never imagined. And if you're lucky, really lucky, those unexpected detours become the most important parts of your story. Ethan's phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. "Thank you for everything, for that night at the lodge, for not walking away, for helping me become someone I can live with. I don't say it enough, but you changed my life." He smiled and typed back, "You changed mine too. See you Monday." He set down his phone and went upstairs, checked on Mia, who was hunched over her laptop, typing furiously, kissed the top of her head. "Love you, kid." "Love you too, Dad." He went to his room, got ready for bed, and lay down. The house was quiet, peaceful. And for the first time since Sarah died, Ethan felt complete. Not because the pain was gone, not because he'd replaced what he'd lost, but because he'd learned how to carry it, how to live with it, how to build something new without forgetting what came before. He'd learned that strength wasn't about being unbreakable. It was about breaking and putting yourself back together, again and again, until you found a shape that fit. He'd learned that helping someone else could save you just as much as it saved them. And he'd learned that sometimes the most important moments in your life happen when you're stranded in a blizzard with a stranger who turns out to be exactly who you need. He closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. And in Charlotte, Victoria did the same. Two people who'd been drowning had learned to swim. And in learning to swim, they'd helped each other find the shore. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been perfect. But it had been real. And in the end, that was all that mattered.